Hello, I'm Todd Forrest, Arthur Ross Vice President for Horticulture and Living Collections at the New York Botanical Garden. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the garden in winter. This turned out to be the first real winter we have had in years. It was the sort of winter that makes nearly everyone a weary watcher of nature's seasonal clock. For some, the vernal equinox couldn't come soon enough. But even with fingers frigid and backs sore from shoveling mountains of snow, there are some wise and discerning garden lovers who welcome the quiet chill of winter at NYBG. They know that winter reveals the garden structure and its soul. There is no better time and place to admire the garden's trees and natural topography than winter in the Maureen K. Chilton Azalea Garden. A progress of tall, straight trunks of native shade trees marches across the slopes and frames long views of the surrounding landscape. Content to serve as mere context throughout the rest of the year, these ancient sentinels proclaim their presence in winter. Winter treasure abounds beneath the ascendant canopies. Gold and yellow and red and amber witch hazels begin opening in February and continue to unfurl into March. 1,000 tiny sunsets suspended above the snow. Last year's leaves rustle in the slightest breeze. The seed heads of grasses, the berries of woodland perennials, and the twigs and buds of shrubs and trees add visual texture and provide sustenance for the hungry winter residents who seem to favor the azalea garden over all NYBG locations. There is nothing colder than the sight of a rhododendron leaf curled in on itself in response to a cold snap. A fresh blanket of snow provides some protection for the plants and some visual warmth to visitors. And when the snow can no longer withstand the rising temperatures and lengthening days of March, the trickling chorus of its meltwater is the warmest sound of all. The garden features two world-class collections of conifers, the Bennison ornamental conifers and the Arthur and Janet Ross conifer arboretum. Both shine during the winter months. The ornamental conifers include hundreds of mature, weeping, variegated, contorted, dwarf, and fastigiate selections of cone-bearing plants thoughtfully laid out in the 1940s by legendary landscape designer Marion Coffin. Coffin's design for the collection placed often outlandish horticultural selections, which came from the collection of Colonel R.H. Montgomery of Connecticut, amid bedrock outcrops and mature trees in a way that reveals the best qualities of both nature and culture. The Arthur and Janet Ross conifer arboretum has an even more distinguished pedigree. It was the first permanent collection of plants established at NYBG in the 1890s, and today includes some of our oldest and grandest planted trees. The Ross Arboretum showcases pines, spruces, firs, and other conifers native to the Northern Hemisphere. Their evergreen, often aromatic needles, resinous buds, and persistent cones show a surprising diversity of shape, color, and texture. Any curious soul who takes the time to get to know the subtle details of these forest giants will be rewarded with one of nature's hidden delights. For those who don't have the time or inclination to linger and look closely, there is joy in simply watching the conifers dance in the driving winds and snow of a winter storm. In the 1920s, the Women's Advisory Council to NYBG's all-male board of managers invited noted garden designer Ellen Shipman to design a mixed border in a protected vale south of the conservatory. Affectionately called the ladies' border, this was to be NYBG's first display designed purely for beauty rather than botanical diversity. In the first decade of this century, current trustee and garden designer extraordinaire Lyndon Miller redesigned the ladies' border, which still retained some of Shipman's design elements but had lost its focus and beauty. Inspired by Shipman's groundbreaking design, her own time in England, and the site's warm microclimate, Lyndon created a mixed border of plants with late winter interest, including many half-hardy selections not typically grown in New York. The ladies' border showcases the horticulturally unexpected, the pleasantly surprising. Camellia, paperbush, heavenly bamboo, winter jasmine, Japanese apricot, arborescent yucca, mahonia, crepe myrtle, alstroemeria, and many more. More tried and true, but no less delightful selections round out the design and accentuate the four-season beauty of the border. A hidden gem, the ladies' border is planted with the most hopeful plants, those that are at their most beautiful in the gathering light of late winter. Although the perennial garden does not have the ladies' borders focused on plants with winter interest, it still draws us in, even when its painstakingly considered color combinations are on pause. In winter, the perennial garden's regal context at the entrance to the Enid Ahab Conservatory, its extensive and possibly straight yew hedges, strategically placed evergreens, and its clipped shrubs and exclamation point tutors, Lyndon's signature domes and minarets, carry the day. It is a garden that exudes life, even when its dazzling mix of bulbs, perennials, and annuals lays dormant beneath the frozen soil. The Home Gardening Center shows off plants we can include in our own gardens to add a little winter joy and light. From the tracery of persistent hydrangea florets, to the emerging flowers of hellebores, to the alluring blooms of Japanese apricot, to the bright red orbs of winterberry holly, to the irrepressible bright yellow brilliance of Chinese witch hazel. The Home Gardening Center proves that winter can be a season of horticultural plenty. Many of the most popular plants for winter interest are native to places with climates slightly different than New York's, and thus are out of sync with New York's seasonal rhythms. They emerge and flower when our native plants remain in their winter slumber. The plants in the native plant garden are wise to the ways of January thaws and April frosts, and seldom begin their annual cycle of growth before the vernal equinox. Winter's beauty in the native plant garden is a quiet beauty of fallen leaves, tawny seed heads, crystalline reflections, blankets of snow, and the sorts of clear blue skies you can only see when the temperature makes it uncomfortable to be outside. The native plant garden is content in dormancy. A blizzard is kind to the Thane family forest, which wears a coat of fresh, deep snow well. Its trackless trails seem to lead to an unhurried past. The organic jumble of the forest floor, so essential to the life of the growing forest, recedes, drawing the eye upward to the endless ranks of trees dressed in dignified gray and revealing the paths of the creatures who find protection here. Against the stillness of the winter forest, the slightest rustle of tawny, persistent beech leaves is a revelation. Only the perpetual, purposeful rush of the Bronx River can break the forest's silent winter spell. By March, even those of us who love winter at the garden spend our days anxiously looking for signs of new life. As winter's snowdrops emerge through melting snow, and its witch hazels reach their peak, rumors and speculation about spring's flowers circulate among staff. I think I saw the Amerydonis in the ladies' border. Was that really a crocus in the lawn near Wamser Rock? Will the Magnolia zenii be clipped by a late frost? I think the Japanese apricot and the ladies' border are going to have their best year ever. And so on. Soon the speculation gives way to frenzied adulation as we all check our favorite spots daily, hoping not to miss even one of spring's many cherished gifts. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the garden in winter, and for your interest in and support of our work. We can now turn our attention to spring. It has been 2 years since anyone has visited the garden during its most vibrant and colorful season. I think that 2021 will be the most beautiful spring in the garden's history. Come early and come often. I promise you won't be disappointed.